Majority of people have no problem stating big goals, but the closer it gets to reality, the clearer that intersection between your aspirations and your capabilities becomes, the more squeamish everyone, including myself, tend to be, because you have to reel in your aspirations. You've got to ramp up your capabilities. That's hard. Almost a year ago to the day, I had an idea, believe it or not. And the idea was that we could do 10 times the production at a tenth of the cost and a tenth of the time. And this was a make or break decision because it was in the immediate aftermath of a co-founder splitting off from the business after 5 years. It was make or break because I had to know whether it was possible to map out an entire business using our framework at VentureMap and the methodology we had developed. I had to know, is it possible to do it in a week instead of 3 months, instead of a year? Is it possible to do it for $100 instead of 1,000 or 4,000 or 10,000? These are the questions I had from a feasibility standpoint. I was very focused on feasibility. And admittedly, it's a lot. It's a lot of different stuff to produce. I've talked about it in previous videos, but I had to know if it was possible. And I said, if I'm going to keep this business going, I have to know that we can collapse the timeline for production, because that was our biggest constraint, was production. And we did it. And when I say we, I include my wife, perhaps even in a strange way, the AI tools, since I spent like 3 days, 3 8-hour days straight prompting to produce a VentureMap's collateral. And so in some strange way, ChatGPT was part of the team and was with me in that. And I learned a lot during that time, what's actually valuable and what's, nice to have. That's where we got the idea of the strategy execution system, requiring a foothold of sorts into the virtual terrain of a business model, of the virtual terrain of a VentureMap. You had to get a foothold in that space first before you could complete the entire thing. Although we had realized a meaningful uplift in our production capability, immediately after that, I found a total record screech. It's almost like those crash test dummies, straight into a brick wall. The real constraint wasn't on production. It wasn't how much we can produce, the quantity and quality of artifacts we can generate. It was on the human cognition side of the end users, of the clients. Last fall, it was like 230, 250 something deliverables in a week. And I thought that was really, and then of course there was a plan to comb through it with them progressively. And what I found is that just because we could produce all of it, I shunned the idea of just in time, just enough, the Toyota manufacturing approach, because I thought, well, now that AI is on the scene, it's a new paradigm. And now we can have an entire business visualized closer to an instant than ever before. And that was true. But what we really needed was a deeper insight on the problem that we're solving, or I should say a more holistic understanding of the problem set we were attempting to solve. Production is one element. The feasibility of an idea, so important. And intention with that is the desirability. So the human cognition, the bandwidth available for our executive stakeholders, for our end users and clients to actually sit down and go through the material, even if it was presented to them in a logically coherent order of operations, one at a time. It was never, hey, here's 200 things, go through all of it at once, right? I've been on the merry-go-round enough times to understand that you can't boil the ocean. Certainly, having worked with clients for as long as I have, I know focus is so important. But I hadn't embodied that fully. The lessons I learned after deploying the first dozen rapid venture maps was that everything was basically irrelevant, not because it was inaccurate or ineffective or not in keeping with best in class quality, because the end user didn't have the available cognitive load to even come to the table with that stuff. They couldn't even sit with it. It was just frying their neural circuitry. And because of that, they would just kind of be like, all right, cool, bro. Let's focus on what we got to do this week. Those learnings have shifted the trajectory of the work over the last year, where we've honed in to the signal, which was out of everything we've done, what's the thing consistently across the board that has driven the most value, that has moved the needle the most significantly. And that, without a doubt, has been the growth plan, the planning horizon, the EOS VTO thing, right? What do we have to do in 3 years, in 1 year, in 90 days? That has been the most effective and high signal out of everything we produced at first. My hypothesis was going into Q2, Q3 of this past year. Q2 of this past year, we had to double down on that. We have to really bore through the center of the earth on that challenge, which is, it's not enough to just say, here's my 90-day goals, and they're a sentence each. We need project plans. We need deliverables defined. We need tasks delineated. We need to zero it in, and we need a weekly rhythm established, which has actually been one of the greatest breakthroughs, having that hybrid, semi-distributed weekly business review in Venture Map Elite. That's been one of the gifts that keeps on giving. It's fun, it's productive, it's all the things I hoped it could be, and we get consistent feedback from the members that it scratches the itch for that type of thing. Solopreneurs have a difficult time facilitating their own weekly rhythm from a strategy management standpoint. What did I say I need to do this quarter? What have I done? What do I need to do? Doing it for yourself is kind of tricky. So facilitating that, doing it in a virtual co-working kind of way, has a social reinforcement dynamic that's been great. But still hasn't solved the human cognition element. This is what has surprised me and has confounded me a lot, which is, we're not going to do 250, 300 unique artifacts at once. How could that ever be valuable? No one could even understand how much is produced. The original idea was, hey, we'll visualize your entire business in a week across all of these dimensions. And people were like, okay, but no one could come to terms with what was done. I said, let's slow it back. There's wisdom and the just in time approach. Hubris and hypothesis push me to experiment, even though we have an unprecedented uplift in our production capability set. It's irrelevant because that's not the only dynamic at play. The end user's available cognitive load is just as important, if not more so, than our production capability set. It doesn't matter if we can produce 1,000 things in a day. If the end user can only run through one a week, then that's the constraint. How can we make it the absolute most effective, highest leverage thing possible out of all the types of artifacts, collateral, deliverables, et cetera, that we can generate? We need to choose the one thing that's highest leverage for that individual at that time to help them scale their business. As a COO, that's the big idea, right? As an integrator, you're the interface for strategy execution. You're the enablement for the operationalization of the business plan. That's the big idea. When you're fielding information up into the CEO's purview and enabling decisions and insight down into operating units, there has to be a lot of intent there, a lot of intentionality. Otherwise, the wheels can fall off the bus real quick. So the big idea was, okay, growth plan is the highest leverage thing. How deep can we go? If we have our growth plan defined, our planning horizon at a strategic level, and everyone aligns on that, great. Now we have to zero in. 90-day objectives. Let's make them specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART goals for the 90-day period. That's not crazy, right? Make what was a title in a sentence just one page. Can we just do that? Most people have been pretty successful at a mental partnership level. Just they don't have to produce anything, just mentally showing up to a custom branded, colloquially worded 90-day strategy for their business that they directly created. Now, I'm not coming in as the guru consultant saying, these are your goals. I'm helping them determine their own goals and just using best practice to flush out those goals in a way that's logically coherent, strategically sound, and in keeping with best practice. I'm just reflecting that back to them. And that process alone maxes out a pretty decent amount of people who go through the process. They're kind of like not able to give meaningful feedback. That's how it manifests across the board. They're like, yeah, or it takes 2 or 3 weeks to give meaningful feedback just because it's a lot to process. Most people can't even get through the whole briefing. If we have one thing that we can present to the end user a week, a month, whatever, it has to be the best possible thing out of all the things we can choose. And within that best possible thing, it has to be the best possible quality that thing can possibly be. Let's put it into simple terms. If we have to deliver a growth plan out of all the different types of artifacts that could be generated across the ontology of a business, then we need to build the best possible growth plan imaginable. It's custom branded for you and your business. So when you see it, you see more of your vision coming to life. That's giving more of a hook in, more of a lean in to, hey, this thing is mine. This isn't just the venture maps. This isn't the consultants. This is mine. It's not highly technical. It's not riddled with jargon. It's colloquial. We try to make it 5th grade reading level for these small business owners so they actually can derive insight from the collateral. That's what I say. The artifact is a prerequisite for insight. The deliverable that we generate is worthless if it doesn't help create some new level of understanding and enrich the comprehension of the subject matter. So we did decks for a long time, 6 slides, 8 slides, whatever. But we found most people couldn't read the full deck. Most people wouldn't read the full deck. So we said, well, let's present it to them. And we do a 3 to 5 minute video presentation of the deck. And I would say on average, I don't want to be unfair, but half of people, maybe less than half of people that get these things can actually watch the full thing. And that's with trying to put a hook on it. And it's their plan for their business, visually stylized in an on-brand way and worded in a colloquial manner. Most people have a hard time even going through the whole thing, the whole video, 3 to 5 minutes. That confounded me for a long time, maybe even till like yesterday. And we probably deployed a couple hundred of these now across different industries, personality types, markets, and all different types of business owners. What I've learned is that it makes you face a part of yourself. That's the real hard part about it, is it makes you come to terms with what you're saying you're going to do in order to achieve a lot. The majority of people have no problem stating big goals, but the closer it gets to reality, the clearer that intersection between your aspirations and your capabilities becomes. The more squeamish everyone, including myself, tend to be, because you have to reel in your aspirations. You've got to ramp up your capabilities. That's hard. It's loss aversion. If I say I want to make X millions of dollars in revenue in my big high level planning horizon, but then I'm at a much lower level in reality, and the only way to scale to that is by dramatically uplifting my skills and abilities and output, which is painful. I realized it's just not achievable within the timeline being discussed. I have to dial back in the revenue goals. And that's painful. You have to lose part of your vision, part of your dream, and you have to ramp up your efforts. So it's like painful on multiple levels. And what's, I think, debilitating to a lot of founders, especially in the first 2 to 3 quarters of running this type of 90-day process, probably over a year, to be honest, is the first time they do it, they say, we're going to have 5 goals this quarter. And they maybe get 1 done. And the second one, like, okay, guys, we tried to do way too much. We're going to do 3 things this quarter. Let's squish 3 and 4 together. We're going to do 3 giant things. Fast forward another quarter, they got 1 done. Okay, we're only going to do 3 normal sized things this quarter. Fast forward to the end of the quarter, they got 2 done. That can be difficult because it's like even the goals that we forcibly reduced in size, and as hard as we worked to build our capabilities, to upskill, to stay competitive, to stay lean, to make sacrifices, to aggressively pursue the development of the business, all that pain led to still missing the goal, still missing 50% of the goal, 75% of the goal. It's like, that is rough. And that's where resilience comes in. That's where conviction, a sense of your calling, and a grounding in the absolute. Why care so much about all this? VentureMap exists to help 1 million solopreneurs build self-optimizing enterprises. We believe that emerging technology, specifically artificial intelligence, will allow a new generation of founders to scale incredible businesses without the need for additional team members. AI enablement is our key focus. A big part of our hypothesis is that if we can understand the planning horizon for a company, where it wants to scale over the course of multiple years, and what actions need to be taken to execute on that strategy down to the day-to-day level, we can plug in agent systems to augment what human team members would do in terms of executing on tasks and allow the company to become self-optimizing and allow the company to grow without the need for additional employees. We're still very much in the early days. We have a lot of development ahead of us, a lot of learning ahead of us. In that same spirit, we have a lot behind us as well. As we move into our 6th year, it feels like it's our first in so many ways. All the lessons that we've taken over this time have brought us to a base level where we have a framework, the methodology, and perspective. We have a foundational capability set. But where we go from here is going to look a lot different than where we've come from. AI enablement is the future play here. Over the course of the next quarter and year, we'll be deploying a few initiatives that I'm really excited for. They'll look like agency services at first, subscription-based services that I think will bring a lot of value to our clients in our community and will accelerate the vision for our company, for VentureMap. So grateful for everyone who's contributed and invested and believed in me and the dream that lies underneath this endeavor. I wouldn't be here right now had it not been for the dozens of clients who have put their money on the line time and time again to see this vision come to life. They've made bets, not just on the idea, but on my ability to deliver it. And I'm truly thankful for that. My expectation for the road ahead is that we'll get even better at strategy execution, at systematizing that. And more than just establishing a nervous system for the company. That is ultimately a prerequisite. The end cap to that is, as many of you know, I talk a lot about time boxing and monotasking and estimating and tracking times for task execution and integrating day-to-day execution with a weekly rhythm, with a quarterly plan, with a longer-term planning horizon, and integrating all of that seamlessly. Phase one is just the strategy execution system. And that's $1 right now in the community. If anyone watching this wants deeper insight, I've got the do-it-yourself kit there for $1. That's the Hormozy attraction offer. That's my hypothesis for deploying it based on the book and the ACQ AI and everything else. Once you have all of that data clarified, is okay, cool, dude, start executing. You got to do your tasks every day. You have to do your tasks every week. You have to actually move the needle towards those objectives being complete. That's the really hard part that everybody has difficulty with. Of course, it's the defining factor of a great founder is execution, not ideas. So what we're doing with VentureMap, which is something I'm so excited for, is we're going to give that competitive advantage to more people. We're going to give that ability to execute to more people in the founding space, specifically solopreneurs that align with the core values of VentureMap, which is at its core servant leadership and the pursuit of the principles that Christ established. And that's something I believe I can spend the rest of my life working towards, because it's something I'm convicted on pretty deeply. I believe it aligns with my calling. With all these incredible new technologies, with all these incredible new capabilities, the world needs servant leaders, people with character, people with a reverence for the Almighty, people with a love for their fellow man. Those are the ones who I believe will do the greatest good with these unprecedented, powerful technologies. That's why we are aspiring to help 1 million of those solopreneurs build self-optimizing enterprises. So it's a journey. It does feel like a bit of a quest. And I'll tell you, throughout all of this, I take a pretty decent amount of time to not work, to sit with my family and detach, because at the end of it all, keeping our priorities straight is critical. What do you do once you have a business that runs itself? What do you do once you have enough? You'll never get your time back. So that's perhaps a conversation for another day, but I am excited for what's to come. The ability to provide a capsule of sorts, a module, basically like a modularity for execution to our members, our community members, our clients that says, hey, listen, with these parameters, we can uplift your execution ability by 10 times, by 100 times for a fraction of the cost of traditional employees. Consider content marketing, cold email, or funnel design. We can give you a massive uplift in your ability to execute on your strategy for a fraction of the cost. That's how it comes together. Anytime we have rocks, we have 90-day goals that fall into those spaces, we can augment the human team's ability to execute with our intake systems. Very exciting to see signals of validation and growth towards those ends. Again, we have a long way to go, and I'll keep you posted each step on the journey. Thanks again for watching. If you want to start this journey for your own business, I encourage you to join our free community. Every member that joins gets a custom growth plan on the house. So you run through a quick intake. The agentic systems I'm talking about are already in place for this, specifically for the strategy execution system. We'll generate version 1 of your growth plan, that high-level planning horizon, for free, pretty much instantaneously. Then I will meet with you one-on-one, we'll review it, kind of figure out what needs to be zeroed in so there's no machine hallucinations, and it's been well structured and considered for it to actually happen. And then we'll say, hey, look, do we want to just go from here and fly? Do we want to drill down deeper? How do we make this come to life? How do we bring this plan to reality? And that's the central element to the entire VentureMap community as of today. And what is it? At the end of October 2025. If that's you and you want to get started, just click the link below the video, join the community, run through the intake, meet with me one-on-one, and we'll get started on your strategy execution system today. Until next time, Logan out.